Moving to Sandpoint, Idaho sounds amazing, and it is. There's a reason why there's so many people relocating here. But living here isn't the same as visiting, and there are some quirks, some challenges, and hidden benefits that only the locals know. So I put together the top 16 things that you need to know before you move here. That way you're fully prepared. Before we jump into all of that, I put together a relocation guide to moving to Sandpoint in North Idaho. If you want this comprehensive guide, go ahead and text me at 208-400-6162 relocation guide, and I'll send it to you. Or go down in the description below. There's going to be a link. Click it, fill out your information, and I will send you the relocation guide. This is packed with a bunch of information to get you started off on the right foot. Number one thing that you need to know, and I'm just going to come out and hit you right in the mouth with it. We're talking about the housing cost and cost of living. This is a big one, so I figured let's talk about this right up front. So housing costs have definitely gone up since the COVID days, and we're not the most affordable small town that you remember if you were looking into Sandpoint pre-COVID days. Housing has definitely gone up. Cost of living around the board, around the country, has definitely gone up. Let's focus on housing costs. Right now, the median sale price in Bonner County is at that $650 range. Depending on the month, it goes up and down a little bit, obviously. But you can expect to spend about $650,000 on a house. That's a 3-bedroom, 2 baths, maybe right around the 1,800 square feet, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. If you want something that's on acreage with a decent sized home, right around that 2,000 square foot mark, you're probably going to be spending a little bit more. Add a shop and some other cool features to the house like backup generators, asphalt driveways, the cost is going to go up. If you have a view, a really nice view, the cost is going to go up. If you're going to be in town, that $650, you're going to have a nice home. You might have to change some things cosmetically, but that's okay. But if you're going to be in town and you're going to be more in that $450, maybe low $500 range, you probably have to do a little bit more elbow grease to get the house to where you want it to be. Now, as far as cost of living, I think when I'm comparing groceries and gas and things like that, overall the cost of living is going to be a little bit less if you compare it to, say, California, Washington, Oregon. Of course, if you go back to Tennessee, Missouri, those items are going to be less expensive, and so are the housing. But as far as it being in a resort town, having the lake, having the ski mountain, Schweitzer in your backyard, we're still affordable. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for using that word affordable, but when you look at what the lifestyle presents here, the cost is not as bad as some other towns. Look at Tahoe for comparison. The number two thing that you need to know about when you move to Sandpoint, Idaho is internet. And the last time I did this video, we talked about internet, and things have definitely improved. So that is a really good thing. So if you're in town and if you're in some select rural communities, there's a really good chance that you're going to have fiber internet. You're going to have really fast internet that you would expect in the big cities. Now, once you go out of town and you don't have the option for fiber, there's line of sight. And so there's some different mountains where they have some equipment. And as long as you have line of sight to those towers, you can get some pretty decent speed internet. It's going to be more affordable than Starlink and some other options. But the reliability, in my opinion, because I've been a member, I've used their services, a lot of the different line of sight companies, and they work pretty good. Again, the speeds are not bad, and the reliability, that's the biggest hiccup that you're going to run into. Again, cost is pretty good. But let's talk about Starlink. So I currently run Starlink, and it's great. It's actually the best internet I've ever had. Obviously, the initial setup is going to be more expensive, and the monthly cost to have that internet is generally higher than your line of sight, but it works great. So depending on what your internet needs are, go to Starlink. It's going to solve all your issues. We're a family of 6. We're streaming. I'm uploading videos like this and doing other internet use, and we don't have any glitches, and it doesn't go down that often. If you need a VPN connection, obviously that can be an issue. So overall, internet has definitely been improved, and it's continuing to improve in the Sandpoint area. The third thing that you need to know before you move to Sandpoint, Idaho is cell service. Again, we talked about this in the last time I did this video, and things haven't really improved. I mean, Clark Fork has better coverage now, but that's really the only big difference. There's definitely curves in the road on the highway where you just know you're going to drop the call. You could be right down in downtown Sandpoint, like I am doing this video right now, and you just lose cell service for no reason. And you just kind of get used to it. We've been up here for a little over 8 years now. I'm on the phone, I drop the call, and it's like, well, that's kind of be expected. I'm on the phone with somebody else that's living in North Idaho, and we call each other up, and it's like, is it you? Is it me? It's like, no, it's North Idaho phones for you. They're not the most reliable. It doesn't really seem to care what carrier that you go with. I think Verizon is the best, and I think that's the consensus up here is that Verizon generally has the best and most reliable service up here. But just be used to your phone going in SOS mode for 30 seconds for no reason whatsoever. It's just life up here. It's not a big deal. The great thing about phones is you drop the call, you call them back. Or if you're on an important call and you know that there's a dead zone up ahead, you either pull over, finish the conversation, or you find an alternate route. I do that a lot when I go home because I have a known dead zone on my way to on the way to my house, and I just take an alternate route where I keep service. Moving on to number 4, and we are talking about paid parking. So as of right now, if you go downtown Sandpoint, if you go anywhere to park, there's just a time limit depending on where you're at. There's a lot of spots in downtown Sandpoint where there's a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour maximum. And there's some areas where there's no restriction. That's pretty far and few between. However, the city is talking about implementing paid parking with meters and everything. Obviously, everyone local here totally against it because that's more of a big city, big town type of a thing to do. We're small, in my opinion, we're still small, and a lot of people agree to me that we're still a small town and we're going to pretty much remain that way. And we don't want to have that paid parking because that doesn't really fit the vibe and the culture down here. You know, our life is already expensive. We don't need to add another form of tax when we're going downtown to try and support our local businesses. Let us go down there, let us park. There's really good self-policing already of, I did my shopping, I've been down here for 2 hours, and now I'm leaving. We don't need to come down there and pay to secure a spot. So that's something that's currently on the books. That's something that you need to look or just know about. And maybe when you move here, is there paid parking now? Before we move on to number 5, which is the most important thing that we are going to talk about. My name is Ben Geanetta, and I'm a realtor right here in Sandpoint, Idaho. And if you're looking to move or relocate to Sandpoint, Idaho, give me a call because I'm helping people just like you move here. I did it myself, and I know what it's like to relocate to Sandpoint, Idaho. And I want to make sure that you know everything that you want to know about and need to know about moving here. Plus, when you find the house, I want to make sure that you know all the pitfalls and the benefits of that location. So let's go ahead and move on to number 5. Let's talk about smoke season because that is a thing up here. So right now, this year in August, we've had a couple weeks where the smoke was really bad. The health index for the air quality was really high, and it's not been a lot of fun. The good thing is a lot of times the fires are not located in North Idaho. They're burning from California, Oregon, Montana, all the way up to Canada. And just the way the jet stream and everything works, it seems like it funnels to the panhandle. And then because of our mountain ranges and how they're set, it just kind of sits and stays. And we really need a good gust of wind. We need a rainstorm to get it out of here. Now, this is not every season. It's not like we get heavy smoke every year. In fact, in 2024, I think we had like one day where you could tell that there was a lot of smoke in the air. So the good news is a lot of times the smoke is not isolated or it's not coming from Idaho itself. It's our neighbors, and it's not an every year thing. This year we just happened to get some smoke, and that generally happens when you start to see smoke up here in the month of August, maybe at the very end of July. And then it's generally out by September, depending on how bad the smoke is coming from other states. You might linger into September a little bit, but generally it's going to be August is going to be that high peak of bad air quality up here. Number 6 on the 16 things that you need to know before you move to Sandpoint, Idaho, we have 4 distinct seasons. We have winter, we have spring, summer, and fall. We have it all, and you can tell on what season that you're in. And this is actually one reason why people want to move here. They're either coming from Alaska and they just have it's cold and colder, or they're coming from Arizona, Southern California, and it's hot or hotter and sunny all the time. So people like coming up here and having the four seasons. It's not that bad. It's definitely something you can navigate through. I just tell people dress accordingly. You're going to have your coats and have your heavy, medium, and light coats because depending on the day and how cold and how sensitive you are to that weather, hot or cold, really dictates what you should be wearing. Have the right shoes for the season, and you're going to be completely fine. And you're going to absolutely love having the change of seasons. It's nice waking up and it's like, what is today going to bring? Rather than it's like Seattle and it's dark, gloomy, and a light sprinkle all day long, every single day. So, four seasons, definitely prepare for it, have the right attire, and you're going to love the four seasons up here in Sandpoint. Let's move on to transportation and just accessibility. If you're planning to move here, you need to have a car. And if you're not, you need to find somebody that's going to drive you around because we have, I believe it's just one transportation bus. It's called the Spot Bus, and it takes you from Dover to Sandpoint to Oreille and back and forth. But I believe there's only one of those. I think we have a couple Uber drivers now, and I think we have one taxi, like one company, one car that does taxis. So transportation is big up here because it's kind of self-reliant. And if you want to drive to Coeur d'Alene, if you want to drive to the lake or anything like that for the outdoor recreational activities, it's going to be really hard to move around without having your own vehicle. Now, there are a couple neighborhoods where you can have access to these trails that can take you into downtown Sandpoint, that can take you to City Beach. So if you're not wanting to have your own vehicle or really limited, or if you really want to limit your own personal vehicle, get with me. I'll tell you about these neighborhoods. But for the most part, plan to have your own vehicle or make friends who can drive you around because if you're going to rely on public transportation, I think you're going to have a really difficult time up here in Sandpoint. That's going to lead us into number 8 on the 16 things that you need to know before you move to Sandpoint, and that's the outdoor lifestyle. And this is a perfect follow-up segment because people move here because they want to be in the outdoors. We have so much activities out here to enjoy the outdoors. Why do you want to be cooped up in your house all day long? You guys already know we have Sweater Mountain Resort. In the wintertime, you're going to be skiing and do all the winter sports up there. In the summertime, they have Oktoberfest and some different concerts going on up on the mountain. And with Alterra buying out the mountain, we are totally expecting to see more activities during the summer to keep the mountain more engaged for the community. You also have Lake Oreille. You have all the water sports. You have fishing. You have hiking. There's so many different hiking trails around Sandpoint, whether they're basically in town, 5 minutes from town, maybe a 45-minute drive when you really get up into the mountains. You have all sorts of trails for ATVs, horseback, snowmobiles, the outdoor activities. It's really hard to cram it all into one season because there's just so much to do. My family, we love to go to the Pack River. We love to go to Lake Oreille in the summertime. And then we realize, oh geez, well, we didn't do X, Y, and Z because this year we were really bumming out over on the beaches. So if you are looking for an outdoor lifestyle, if you wanted to improve your quality of life with the outdoors, Sandpoint is definitely going to check those boxes for you. Number 9 on our list, we are going to be talking about growth and development. So just like anywhere in the United States, Sandpoint is growing and there's going to be new development. And I will say that a lot of locals, they either truly are locals or they've been here for 20, 30 years and they now consider themselves to be local, born and raised here. They don't like change. So anytime there's a new proposal for any sort of change, you're going to hear a lot of griping on Facebook. And Facebook is really popular up here, being a small town. It is what it is. And if you hear about something new, a new building going up, parking, we talked about parking, just jump on Facebook to one of the local forums and you're going to see a ton of chatter about it. So what are some of the developments that are new to Sandpoint? Well, we have Field of Dreams, and actually that was one where the community really got behind and supported that development. And basically, it is a multi-sport complex for the kids, state of the art with nice turf, good facilities. So that was a really good improvement and development that we had here in Sandpoint. We also have the Russell E. James Sports Complex, and that's over by Traverse Park, which is on the west side of Sandpoint. And that's a big facility for pickleball and tennis. They redid the kids' playground, and there was a lot of hate with that thing going in. The community wanted it to go somewhere else. But anyways, this video is not about deep diving into that. There's some new apartments that are going up that got a lot of flack. Some new subdivisions going in that people, of course, are not happy with because they want to keep that small town, keep the population down small. But anyways, all that being said, there's definitely some good new development coming in. There's some development coming in that people are not in favor for, but it just kind of goes with the growth of a city. And let's talk about that before we move on to number 10. The nice thing about Sandpoint, because of the river, the lake, the wetlands, the railroad tracks, the amount of federal and state land, Sandpoint is not going to just overnight blow up and the population is out of hand. The terrain just doesn't allow for it. So if you're worried, well, I'm going to move to Sandpoint and it is growing, but I don't want it to be like Coeur d'Alene where just boom, there's a ton of new development. That's not going to happen, again, because of the terrain. Will continue to grow? Absolutely, but it's going to be at a slower pace. Moving on to number 10, we are talking about sports and just outdoor recreational. And we did talk a little bit on the recreational side of it, but let's start off talking about sports. One of the bigger sports for youth up here is going to be soccer. Ton of friends that are in the soccer programs and clubs. We have Sting, we have Strikers. I think it's called Albany. I don't think that's what the club is called. But anyways, there's multiple different clubs up here, and soccer is definitely a big thing. Another big activity for the youth is going to be 4-H, with being in a rural community and a lot of people having the land, farms, hobby farms. 4-H is definitely a big activity up here for the youth. We're talking steers and horses and pigs, goats, sheep, chickens, turkeys, all of it. And it goes, 4-H goes beyond all that. Like there's some archery and shooting and quilting, home ec. There's a lot of different activities that are within the 4-H umbrella. And again, let's talk about recreational activities. I'm not going to go through the entire list because we already did. But basically, if you want to do something outside, you're going to be able to do it. We didn't talk about mountain biking, but that's an activity that you can do at Pine Street Woods, up at Schweitzer Mountain Resort. There's a bike park, and that's it. We didn't talk about it in the development section, but there's a bike park over in Sagal that's a huge controversy. A lot of people don't want it. We're not going to get into those details, but there's a bike park with miles of trails with easy, medium to hard trails. So again, if you want to do something outdoors up here, you can do it. You just have to, and a lot of times you don't even have to look for it because it's right there in front of your face. Moving on to number 11 of the top 16 things that you need to know about before you move to Sandpoint, Idaho, and we're talking about just animals and wilderness and all that. So yes, you're going to see wildlife when you move up here. Turkeys, they're kind of like cockroaches. They're all over the place, and you're going to see them all the time. I get asked this quite a bit. Can you eat them? Absolutely. Do they taste as good as the turkey that you get from the store? No, it's a lot more gamey. So if you want to hunt them and eat them, you certainly can, but the taste just might not be what you're used to. You're going to see a lot of deer. They're kind of like cockroaches. They're all over the place. You're going to see them dead on the side of the road because they do cross in front of you on the highway and people do hit them. So a lot of turkey, a lot of deer. You're going to see some moose. In fact, we have a mama moose and her calf. They come into downtown Sandpoint on a regular basis. If you're on Facebook, you're going to see people post. I'm like, oh, the moose is over here today. And maybe in a couple of weeks, oh, now the moose is over here. Sometimes you do see them crossing the highway. In my opinion, that is a lot less likely, but you do see them. Eagles kind of came immune to them because I see eagles all the time. I have a nest that's not too far from my house. but it's still really cool. Like, I don't want to downplay it. It is super cool to see wild bald eagles flying around, especially at the lake when they're hunting. So you're going to see plenty of eagles. There's actually a nest over on the Long Bridge, and if you constantly are driving down the Long Bridge or up the Long Bridge, you're going to see them nest. You're going to see them flying and fishing. It is really cool. As far as predators go, yes, we have grizzly bears, but they're going to be more north in the Bonners Ferry area. Have they been seen further south? Yes, but very, very unlikely and very uncommon. Black bears, yes, we have black bears, and actually, doing this video, we have seen some sightings of black bears coming down into town, but they're coming down and they're going right back. So it's getting close to winter, so I'm sure they're just trying to get the last bit of food and get ready for winter. Cats, big cats, mountain lions and such, yes, you're going to see them, or you're going to hear about them. People are going to post on Facebook. Once again, like, get on Facebook. Mountain lion seen in this area or that area. So just know, especially when you go out in the wilderness, you are in their habitat and you will see wildlife on a regular basis, which is super nice, which is a really good change from the big city where you just see concrete and cars all the time. All right, we are on number 12 of the top 16 things that you need to know. We are going to talk about healthcare, and this is a pretty big one. I believe we talked about this in the last video I did like this. And the healthcare, we have it up here. We have great general practitioners or your general health doctor. We have a lot of good holistic health options as well. I would go to 7B IV, Melinda Adams. She's the owner, and she is fantastic. I definitely like her IV therapies for an alternate of some other Western medicine. Now, that being said, if you have something special about your health, we may have the option up here in Sandpoint for you, but more than likely you're going to have to go to Coeur d'Alene or maybe even Spokane to see that specialty doctor. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for a house up here. If you have a special, unique illness, do your research and see if you're willing to make that drive however often you need to make it to that medical facility. If you're going to have babies up here, I think it was 2 years ago, so in 2023, I believe, Bonner General Hospital, BGH, got rid of their labor and delivery department. So if you're going to deliver a baby up here, you're going to have to go to Newport, you're going to have to go to Bonners Ferry, you're going to have to go to Coeur d'Alene, or get a midwife and have the baby at your house. So that's a huge inconvenience and something that did not sit well with the community when they decided to get rid of that department. So just keep that in mind. If you have something unique, if you're trying to have a baby, just keep that in mind when you're going to be moving to Sandpoint, Idaho. But we have great general health practitioners and holistic options up here. We're getting close to the end. We're on number 13 of 16 of the top 16 things that you need to know before you move to Sandpoint. And I want to touch on wells and septics because more than likely you're going to move up here and you're going to be on a well or septic. If you're going to move into city limits, of course, you're going to be on city services, and that's all pretty standard. It is standard, actually. So with a well, if you're going to be on a well system, 5 gallons per minute, I want you to think like you're in Seattle, you're in Phoenix, you're in LA, you're a family of 4 or 5, you have a standard lawn, and you're just living life. That's what 5 gallons per minute is going to basically provide you. Now, if you're going to start having large animals, an extensive garden, you want to water your front lawn, well, you might want to get something more in that 10 to 15 range. If you are going to have a really big garden, if you're going to do a ton of irrigation, and you're going to have all of the animals, you probably want something more in that 20, 30 plus range on your gallons per minute. Now, if you do have a slower producing well, and again, you really need to be in that 10 to 15 range, but you have a 5 gallon per minute well, don't fret. There's a solution. You can get a holding tank to 3,000 gallons, and this is not terribly expensive to set up. And basically you have this nice big reservoir. So when you're in the peak time, you're not going to run out of water. You can easily run your household, your outdoor life, your animals in your garden, and it gives your well time to regenerate and replenish the peak time of use of all that water. It's typically, I would say, a shallow well in the Sandpoint area. You're in that 100 to 200 foot range in depth. kind of what's standard is 2, 3, maybe, yeah, 2 to 300 feet deep. And I would consider a deep well up here once you're getting into that 400 feet, 500 feet range. Those tend to be deeper, which again is not a big deal. How much water are you getting per minute? And do you need a holding tank to supplement? Let's talk about septics real quick. Actually, before we do, I always recommend test your water once a year. You just want to make sure that you have good potable water. If you don't want to do that, put a filtration system on it, but I'd still recommend testing it every year so you just know what's going on with your water source. Septics, they're pretty easy. Be careful what you put down the drain. Do not put meat and things that do not decompose, women products. Don't put any of that stuff down the septic because you are going to kill your system pretty quick. You're probably going to want to pump out your system, the sludge, the solids, about every 5 years. And if you're really good about what you're putting down your tank, don't put chemicals down your drains and the other solids, you can have a long, healthy system for many, many years. And the great thing is to pump a system, it's about $400. So if you do it every 5 years, every 10 years, if you're really good about what you put down the drain, you're talking what, like $5 a month to have your sewer system. And that's just unbeatable when you go into the cities where it can be up to $50, $60 a month. Number 14 on our list, we were talking about crime and safety. So I did another video on this. I should have the stats right in front of me, but I don't. But that's okay because I just know that Sandpoint, it's a safe town to live in. When you look at the crime stats from the FBI, Sandpoint's really safe. We're below the national average on basically everything. And the most important one, violent crimes. We are well below the average for the national average. And if you look at cities that you're likely coming from, Phoenix, LA, Seattle, Portland, it is way, way lower than those cities, which is really good. Property crime, again, it's lower, but it's not as dramatic as those other cities that we talked about or from the national average. So if you are looking for a safer place to live, come and move here because it is pretty safe. I know a lot of people when they move here, they're a little bit speechless, like I am right now, on just how safe it is. When there is graffiti, it gets cleaned up right away. When there is a crime and there's video of it, it gets posted on, guess what, Facebook. And it's crazy how quickly the community goes, oh, that's such and such person. And we solve the crime pretty quickly. So there's a lot of good self-policing up here. And it feels good. It feels safe. I know I've left my vehicle unlocked a couple times, had some high-priced items in there. And it's like, darn it, I can't get back to my vehicle right now. That's right, I feel okay. And I go back and everything is the way that I left it. Nobody broke into my car and stole it. So I don't recommend leaving your car unlocked. I'm not saying that, but if you happen to have a oops moment, there's a really, really high chance that everything's going to be a-okay. We're almost to the end, and right now, number 15, we're going to talk about property taxes and exemptions. So again, you're likely coming from the coastal cities, Arizona, and the property taxes are going to be really high. The good thing, Idaho, the property taxes, they're pretty low. I would say when I'm having somebody sell their house or buying a house, I typically see their taxes for the entire year anywhere between $1,500 to $3,000 for the entire year. And what you can do to help lower your taxes is get what's called a homeowner's exemption. This is your primary residence up here. You apply for it and you greatly reduce your taxes. If you live out on acreage, if you live on 6+ acres, you can apply for a forest exemption for your property taxes. Basically, you hire a forester. They come out. They are going to give you a forestry plan on what you could do to have a nice, healthy forest. You record that with the county, and then your taxes are going to get reduced quite a bit. There's also the ag exemption. So if you're going to have animals and you're going to sell some eggs or some meat or some animals, well, talk to your CPA and then look at the form and figure out how all that gets done. But you can apply for that ag exemption to, again, bring down your taxes. And the great thing is you can stack these exemptions on top of one another. And so some people get their taxes so stinking low, it's kind of ridiculous. And like, holy cow, I got to move to Sandpoint, to Bonner County, just so I can stack all these tax exemptions on top of one another. Rounding out our list on number 16, how do you say some of the words up here? And of course, I'm going to start with the most obvious because I know you've been on Google Maps. You've seen the big lake up here on Sandpoint. And you're like, how do I say that? Holy cow. And then you're like, I figured it out. This is how you say it. And you're still wrong. So there's a town in the Sandpoint area just to the north. It's Oreille. You're like, well, yeah, that's Oreille. That's how you say it. Well, guess what? The lake, the big lake on Sandpoint, is also pronounced Oreille, even though it does not look like that whatsoever. They're said the same way. Spelling is obviously way different. There's a big French influence up here, and that's just the French way of saying Oreille. Now, if you go to the south, you have another lake, and it's Lake Coquilala. This is not mispronounced as often as Oreille, but it's still something that I hear quite often of like Coco, and they have a hard time saying it. So that's Lake Coquilala. You're going to see some businesses up here and some land under Kinixu. That gets mispronounced quite a bit, but Kinixu, that's how you say it. Then you have our ski mountain, which is Schweitzer Mountain Resort. It's Schweitzer. Again, that's not mispronounced too often, but some people struggle with it. So again, the mountain is Schweitzer. And to round out how you say some things in the Sandpoint area, this one's actually not near Sandpoint, but it's the capital of Idaho, and it's Boise, not Boise, Boise. Boise, like boy, and then you're seeing something. Boise. There's no Z in Boise. There you have it. There's the 16 things that you need to know about before you move to Sandpoint, Idaho. And don't forget, if you want a copy of my relocation guide, just text me 208-400-6162 and I will send it to you. Or again, down in the description below, there is a link. Just click it, ask for it, and I will send it to you. And if you want to catch my video about different neighborhoods, all the neighborhoods that you need to know about, there's a video that you can click and watch all those different neighborhoods to get you more acquainted with Sandpoint.